Hey, welcome back to Pop Culture Graveyard. I am Hollis, and this week I'm going to be bringing you the classic era of the Violent Femmes. This is Unwieldy. Are you a die-hard Violent Femmes fan? Is the only song you know by them Blister in the Sun? If either of those are true, or you fall somewhere in the middle, I've got you covered this week because I'm doing a deep dive on all these bad boys. The classic original era of the trio. I'm taking you from 81 to 91. That's 5 whole albums. Stay tuned. Don't you go nowhere. If you're enjoying the content I'm bringing you and you want to help support the channel, please do me a favor and consider joining my Patreon. It's at patreon.com/popculturegraveyard. And thank you. On with the show. What I call the classic era of the Violent Femmes, and the era I come from, is the original trio of Gordon Gano, the band's principal songwriter, on guitar and lead vocals, Brian Ritchie on bass and vocals, and Victor DiLorenzo on drums and vocals. In April of 1983, the band released Violent Femmes, their self-titled album on Slash Records. By the way, this is a first pressing. This came out on Slash Records, but my release is a British release, so they were distributed through Rough Trade, but the first presses have this split label, whether US or British. The second release and all subsequent releases simply have the Slash logo on the cover. This is still the first year of release, 1983, but it's the second pressing. But whatever release you end up with, the album was mastered beautifully, so it's going to sound great. Every Violent Femmes exploration should begin here. The songs on this album capture the pain and frustration of adolescent awkwardness with complete honesty. This album proved that a basically acoustic unit could create as much energy and angst as any plugged-in punk band. From the opening track, Blister in the Sun, you feel there's a steady hand at the wheel as the self-assured band delivers a tight performance of this now classic song. What do you mean you don't know the song? Oh, you've never gone to a ball game? I find you highly suspect. Gordon wrote the song Blister in the Sun at 18 years old. At 18, I was still trying to memorize my social security number. Everyone always says that song is about masturbation, but Gordon himself asserts that the song is not about that. First of all, he wrote it for a female lead singer in a band he never ended up working with. So why would he write a male masturbation song for a female lead singer? Secondly, Gordon says it's about how he had a crush on a girl, but she wouldn't date him because his hands are too small. Hence the lyrics, "Big hands, I know you're the one." It's also clear from the lyrics that drug abuse is having a negative effect on the song subject's romantic life, aka he's staining the sheets a little too early. Now all that said, it's also highly possible that Gordon has simply walked back the masturbation meaning because he didn't like the prospect of having a masturbation song as his main songwriting legacy. I feel the song meaning is probably a combination of all those things and nothing. It's the music that really hooks you, and the lyrics are completely secondary, but they're still fun as hell to sing. Incidentally, to show you what a good drummer can do, Victor came up with that drum lick for Blister in the Sun spontaneously when they played the song for the first time. It was also the first song that Victor ever played with the band. Not bad, huh? The song Kiss Off is a brilliant teen angst tale that eventually finds the band jumping into a juicy pocket where the song's subject counts out the pills he's going to take with a reason for each one. 1 'cause you left me, 2 for my family, 3 for my heartache, 4 for my headache, 5 for my lonely, 6 for my sorrow, 7 no tomorrow, 8 I forget what 8 was for, but 9 for a lost God, 10 everything. All these things hurt him bad, but he won't mind because with all those pills he'll either be high or dead. Either way, problem solved. Folks, that's 100% uncut teen rage. What's the street value on that? The song Please Do Not Go has a staggered pseudo-reggae effect that perfectly suits the song narrator's anguished plea. Added Up is the band's first truly epic track, where the Femmes take you on a journey with many twists and turns. From an a cappella opening to a raucous rave-up, to a hard left turn into a poetic pocket of maternal madness that would make Jim Morrison envious. The next track is called Promise. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached my favorite track on the album. Don't at me. I feel your judgment. I used to spin Promise all the time when I would DJ. It's a brilliant rocker and features the closest thing to a cock rock guitar hook on this whole album. And the lyrics are great. You know that I want your loving, but my logic tells me it ain't never gonna happen. And then my defenses say, I didn't want it anyway, but you know sometimes I'm a liar. What? What? Those are crazy lyrics. The next song, To the Kill, has always struck me as being a kind of offhanded Jimmy Jazz, if you'll forgive a London Calling reference, with slick references to Kid Chicago and Al Capone. The band uncork a song you might hear at 4 a.m. at a gangster bar. It's a foreboding track with a malevolent musical arrangement, and Gordon's slow burn vocal delivery builds to a satisfying climax. Gone Daddy Gone proves that the excitement of the Femmes cannot be muted by extensive use of a xylophone, which is played ably by Brian Ritchie, who pretty much hijacks this song with a virtuoso performance. Incidentally, Gordon shares songwriting on Gone Daddy Gone with Willie Dixon, the old blues man, for interpolating a section of his song, I Just Want to Make Love to You. The whole, I can see by the way that you switch and walk, I can tell by the way that you baby talk, I can know by the way that you love your man, etc. The album ender, Good Feeling, which is a song I first encountered on the soundtrack to the film I Was a Teenage Zombie, is probably the sweetest song Gordon Gano ever wrote. If you've never heard it, you're in for a treat, and I'll put a link to it below. Incidentally, Gordon plays the violin that you hear on that track. The piano, on the other hand, was played by the album's producer, Mark Van Heck. In closing, this is still a fresh-sounding, overwhelming record that garners new fans for the band every single day. And it really belongs in every record collection. In June of 1984, the band released Hallowed Ground. This was produced again by Mark Van Heck, and if their first album is why I love the Violent Femmes, their second album is why I respect the Violent Femmes. It is a hard left turn. The band could have just done the debut album, Part 2, which the record company would have loved, but no. Instead, they drop an album full of hillbilly murder ballads and gospel tent revival rave-ups. It's not quite the Clash dropping Sandinista on their fans, but it sort of is. It's a very punk rock move. Not only is this their most religious album, but it's also their darkest. Right from the opening track, Country Death Song, you know this is a much different ride than their debut album. In the song, Gordon channels a harried father who has one too many mouths to feed and does something about it. The next track, I Hear the Rain, makes wonderful use of Brian Ritchie's deep voice, juxtaposing it with Gordon's higher register. And there's a sort of paranoid anxiousness to that song that's really infectious. Never Tell is a meandering enigma of a song that really defies definition, but it builds to a runaway train ending that's straight out of the Velvet Underground's playbook. Jesus Walking on the Water doesn't exist on this album simply to make Gordon's mother and father proud, though it did that. The song's earnest production, featuring Gordon's sister on sweet backing vocals, and Gordon's most memorable violin work since Good Feeling, will win over even the most cynical of sinners. I Know It's True, But I'm Sorry to Say is a sleepy ballad that somehow makes a depressing message sound beautiful. The title track, Hallowed Ground, is my favorite track on the album. It's got the best lyrics outside of Country Death Song, and Gordon's most manic soloing to date. Sweet Misery Blues is a trippy little ditty that's basically about stalking. The song Black Girls is probably the best showcase for Victor's drumming on any Violent Femmes album. And the lyrics detail how the song's subject digs the black girls so much more than the white girls. The song sounds a bit like Jonathan Richman fronting a strip club band, and it continues that way until John Zorn picks up a sax and a clarinet and goes Sun Ra on your ass. The band eventually falls into a pious pocket where Gordon croons, You Know I Love the Lord of Hosts, the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. I was so pleased to learn that he's inside me. In my time of trouble, he will hide me. Spiritu Sancti, Violent Femmes. Just in case you didn't catch the religious tone of this album, the band doubles down with the final track, It's Gonna Rain. And the song opens with Gordon as Noah building his ark, along with his sons Japheth, Shem, and Ham with Zeppo and Gummo. This is perhaps my least favorite song on the album, but I've got to give Gordon props as a songwriter, because he crafted a song so familiar that it feels like it's been a Sunday hymn for 200 years. In closing, this album sort of feels like Gordon wanted to do a gospel album, and the other two members wanted to do a Violent Femmes record, and so the two parties compromised. In actuality, the Violent Femmes, like most bands, had all of the songs for their first and second album already written before the first album was cut. So it was a conscious decision by the band to pack their debut album with pop songs and to fill their sophomore album with roots music. Much maligned at the time, this LP has flashes of brilliance. Country death song Never Tell, Hallowed Ground, and has become the band's personal favorite. I like it too. In March of 1986, the band released The Blind Leading the Naked. This was produced by Jerry Harrison of the Talking Heads. He was forced upon the band by the record company. How should I say this? The band did not get along with Jerry Harrison at all, and he did not really get the band's music. But I have always been a big fan of this LP. I see it as their most whimsical album. Opening track Old Mother Reagan is such a fun blast of punk energy to kick off this album. Obviously, President Ronald Reagan was the greatest thing to happen to music since Richard Nixon, as hundreds of punk bands made him their enemy. But to make Ronnie's mother, or his wife, I don't know who Old Mother Reagan is, the target of their scorn, was pure Violent Femmes. No Killing is one of my favorite tracks on this album, and it's sort of as close as the Violent Femmes get to a straight-up protest song. Gospel rockers like Faith, which seems like a holdover from Hallowed Ground, sit alongside She Done Him Wrong cowboy songs, such as Breakin' Hearts on this grab bag of an album. The song Special is my favorite track on this whole LP. I was originally going to call it a deep cut, but this whole damn album is nothing but deep cuts. Special is a manic rave-up that has that first album magic to it. And this is me daring you not to like it. I'm going to put a link to Special below because I need you to hear it. So damn good. The song Love and Me Make Three is a Brian penned and a Brian sung track, and is what I would call the first misstep on this album. No one signs up for songs from any member of the band other than the visionary songwriter. Gordon quickly rights the ship on the side's final track, the softly sung yet ultra creepy Candlelight song, which could be the scariest song ever to feature a mouth harp, though anything with a mouth harp is pretty scary. Side 2 boasts the band's two big moments, as far as casual Violent Femmes fans are concerned, with I Held Her in My Arms, and their cover of Mark Bolan's Children of the Revolution. Children of the Revolution is mostly known from the T-Rex movie Born to Boogie, which was directed by Ringo Starr. By the way, when it's performed in this movie, Children of the Revolution features Elton John on piano. It's a great song, and the Femmes do a really good version of it. The song I Held Her in My Arms, which by the way prominently features the Horns of Dilemma, a cadre of musicians that includes Steve Mackay on sax. Yes, Steve Mackay from the Stooges' Funhouse album. Anyway, it still sounds like a should-have-been-a-hit classic. Good Friend is a delicious vocal performance from Gordon, with some bittersweet lyrics about unrequited love and brokenheartedness. Heartache, on the other hand, is a raucous song that really allows the rhythm section to go into overdrive. Cold Canyon is an adrenaline-filled blast of Appalachian folk punk that makes a nice companion piece to side 1's Breakin' Hearts. The album ends on another sleepy Gordon ballad that's really more of a song fragment, but it's a gorgeous song fragment. And I really love this wildly unfocused hodgepodge of an album. In February of 1988, the band released 3. This is actually their 4th album. The 3 symbolizes the 3 members who were getting back to basics, just like on the debut album. There are only 2 Horns of Dilemma on this album, whereas they numbered about a dozen on The Blind Leading the Naked. So this is a much more stripped down affair. All you vinyl enthusiasts, this album was mastered by Bernie Grundman, and it sounds phenomenal. The band had sort of broken up after The Blind Leading the Naked, and this was their reunion album. I have a soft spot in my heart for 3, mostly because this is the album that they were touring when I saw them live. 1988, the Beacon Theater, New York. One of my top 3, no pun intended, concerts of all time. Anyway, leadoff track Nightmares is an underrated track by the band that's equal parts creepy and catchy. Just Like My Father is a very simple yet clever rave-up about the baddest dude in a whole family of bad dudes. Dating Days is a fun yet forgettable song, but it's got perhaps the crispest production on the entire album. The throwaway song Fat cannot improve upon its opening line. I hope you got fat, because if you got really fat, you might just want to see me come back. You silver-tongued devil. He's still single, ladies. Fool in the Full Moon sounds like Kiss Off played at 78 RPM. Nothing Worth Living For is as depressing as it sounds, yet there's still a beauty that shines out of the abyss. World We're Living In is a song tailor-made for the lockdown, and it opens with the line, I can't go out no more. I better just stay at home. Damn straight, Gordon. The songs Outside the Palace and Telephone Book are jaunty yet forgettable tracks. Mother of a Girl, however, is my jam on this album. It's got that old school Violent Femmes magic to both the tune and the lyrics. And my favorite line in the song is, the way that he dogged me like I was totally a jerk. I wanted to permanently pound his prick into the dirt. Why don't we leave it there? Clocking in at only 91 seconds, the song Lies still packs a nice punch. And its sound harkens back to the Hallowed Ground LP. See My Ships sends this album out on a morbid yet melodic note, as Jesus, Gabriel, and Marvin Gaye all share sonic space on this vaguely religious dirge. Kind of a downer to leave us on, to be honest. Listen, this is the weakest of all the albums that I'm going to be detailing today. But I'm sure you all understand that when you see a band on a certain album tour, it elevates that album in your esteem. That said, I still think Nightmares and Mother of a Girl could stand proudly alongside any Violent Femmes song. In April of 1991, the band released Why Do Birds Sing? This was produced by the band and Michael Beinhorn. You might know Michael Beinhorn for his work on Mother's Milk by the Chili Peppers and Celebrity Skin by Hole. He was a very in-demand producer at that time, and he did a wonderful job on Why Do Birds Sing. Before I get into the album, I want you all to know that Why Do Birds Sing is finally being re-released on vinyl, as well as double CD and digital, this October, celebrating the album's 30th anniversary. I'm so fucking old. So check out the link below for Why Do Birds Sing, 30th anniversary vinyl. This album is mostly known for the great single American Music. The song itself is a delicious dose of Americana set to a shuffle that made the band so successful it even managed to bump their debut album back on the charts. And that album would finally, at long last, go platinum. American Music is an undeniable mid-tempo hip shaker that features Gordon's most endearing vocal performance in years. I'll put a link to it below. A history of music unto itself, American Music was the most high-profile song on this album, but there are so many other great songs on this underrated LP. Out the Window had already been a live staple for years, and is one of the band's tightest and tastiest grooves. Look Like That is a delightful song with throwback appeal, and it's got the kind of stripped-down 50s production that Phil Spector should have given the Ramones. No matter what kind of music you're into, I dare you not to like Look Like That. When Girl Trouble opens up with the line, have mercy on me, I've got girl trouble up the ass, you know you're in for a classic Violent Femmes rave up. And Gordon really puts the song over with gusto. Much like Out the Window, Girl Trouble is a song that the band had been playing live for years. Same deal with the easy on the ears Flamingo Baby. And I'm really glad that the band managed to put these fan favorites down on tape while Victor was still in the band. The track He Likes Me is a very sweet little song that sounds like it was written by a fourth grader. The band's cover version of Culture Club's Do You Really Want to Hurt Me may sound crazy on paper, but when you hear it, it makes perfect sense. You're not going to top Culture Club's version and all its glossy 80s production, but Gordon changed a few lyrics, and the band rearranged the song to suit their strengths. And the Femmes' stripped-down version reveals what a brilliantly crafted song this truly is. In fact, Boy George even said it's his favorite cover of any Culture Club song. The next song, Lack of Knowledge, is my deep cut off this album. Musically, it's got a little Sex Pistols in it, and the lyrics are equally playful and serious at the same time. And the humanistic message of the song is spot on. The hyper Life is a Scream sounds like the kind of song that Dee Dee Ramone would have written had he been in the Violent Femmes instead of the Ramones. The song More Money Tonight proves that Gordon is still in touch with his inner high schooler. It tells the tale of a kid who was picked on in school, who later grows up to be a rock star. The vengeful lyrics state, I'll make more money tonight than you ever dreamed of. You thought I was strange? Well, just look at me now. If you were lucky, I'll come play in your city, and you can come see me. If you got the money. Take that, bullies. It gets better, and that's one to grow on. Hey Nani Nani is a nonsensical song that just makes me feel happy. The song Used to Be details a couple's breakup, which without giving any details somehow makes us feel bad for both parties. Album ender I'm Free is equal parts church hymn and Appalachian folk song, and it closes the album on a very upbeat note. Why Do Birds Sing is a very underrated album in the Violent Femmes canon. And it was a really beautiful album to bring down the curtain on the classic era of Violent Femmes. I hope you enjoyed this episode on the classic era of Violent Femmes. If you're enjoying the content that I'm bringing you, how about just hitting the like button? And be sure to subscribe, and I will see you next week with a lot more cool stuff.